So when we talk about the Omer, it's a very interesting topic. During the Omer, there's a tshuva of the Rashash. The Rashash wrote Nahar Shalom, right? And it's Beikar for the Chachmei Ma'arav. The Chachmei Ma'arav were in Tunis, and in that generation there was a particular. In every generation, each door, there was a certain group that were mistayen. So after the Arizal, from the Arizal's Talmidim, from Rav Chaim Vital and the others, some went up to Morocco, and you have the Chabura of the Mikdash Melech, right? Shalom Buzaglo, he's buried somewhere in England, in my land. I actually got a map of his thing. So that was a very early Chabura. And then there were different pockets Chabura where in a particular area they became more. That particular generation greater. In Turkey there was a Kushta, Shabbat Tzibur was the Rosh Yeshiva, became a Betel after the Rashash. We know Baghdad, we know they came from Aleppo, we talked about it last time. So in different generations, whether it was in Morocco, for example, one of the most important Rabbanim in Betel was Rav El-Haddad Harari, he came from Morocco. So he was doing he became a Yerushalmi, and he printed the Siddur Yoreh. So it's very, very important. So there's no one particular place which is better or worse. You understand? At different times, different places were more mefusam. So in the time of the Rashash, there was a lot of Kabbalah in Tunis, and over there was a rabbi called Rabbi Yosef Stadbon. He wrote a pirush on the Sha'ar Ruach HaKodesh called the Yusad, Rabbi Yosef Stadbon, or the De'ah, sometimes called, because his key name is Farim that way. So he wrote a Farim. And he wrote She'elot to the Rashash. And sometimes he writes, he says, Kibalnu mitam, we received from there. Tam means Eretz Israel, right? And then it means from the Rashash. So the Rashash in the end wrote a whole sefer, Nahar Shalom and Rehovot HaNahar, to the Chachmei Ma'arav. And some, in Nahar Shalom, there's basically three parts, if you like. There's Rehovot HaNahar, which is a Hagdama on like Hotzrot, on the Hishtad Shilot, the Olamot, how it was created, and the whole story that we're supposed to be familiar with, but we can't do it that in order. Haven't got the time. But we have to still pick up bits of it when we need to. And then you've got Nahar Shalom, which is basically it's almost like a digest of the Oroshah Kavanot with extra insight, because Ari said, I'm going to come back. You don't know how I'm going to come back. It could be alive, it could be in a dream, it could be Bibur Neshama, but I'm going to come back. And there'll be another 10, because in the time of Rishon Baruch Hai, there was 10 Talmidim, right? And they all sat around in the Idra, which is in a place called Beit Zayit, just outside of Sfat. And then the Ari took his 10 students over there, and he told Reb Shah Chaim Vital to sit down under a tree, which is here. He said Rav Abba sat. Now we know Rav Abba, who was probably Rav in the Gemara, Rav and Shmuel, he wrote the Zohar Kadosh. Rishon Baruch Hai didn't write it himself. He told Rabbi Abba, and Rabbi Abba wrote it. So the Arizal told Rav Chaim Vital to write. He said, you're like the Nitzotz of Rabbi Abba. And then again, in a later generation, in the generation of the Rashash, there was 10 tzaddikim, including the Chidab was one of them, and they made it kashrut and neshama. They all made themselves like one neshama, and they said that each one is achrei on the other, the aref for the other, like one neshama. If anyone does an avira, all of them have to be together. Yeah, and it was like the Ari came back in the generation of the Rashash. That's what we hold, because the Hasidim hold it was the Baal Shem Tov, others hold it was the Ramchal, others Rav Nachman. One line is, we know that the Kavanot is you can't decipher what the Ari was talking about without the Rashash. So when we talk about the Koch of the Rashash, if we're learning Rashash, we have to understand that it's like the Ari said it. There's no such thing as a Rashash is an opinion on the Ari. Because if you read one thing in one sefer, what the Ari wrote, you have to know there's 10 other things that he wrote somewhere else. It's Ani in one place and Ashir in another place. Unless we learn in the way that the Chachamim learn, like I'm talking about my Rebbe, Mordechai, where you actually go through every sugya, in every sefer that the Ari wrote on the topic. Whether Sha'ar Kavanot, Meveshaim, Sha'ar Damot, Shem Ashbi. In each sefer there's something extra that's not on the other one. And so you'll see there's a stira until you understand that sometimes he says something in general, but when you go into Pratiyut of it, there's a lot more going on. And you put all the Sfarim together, and then it makes sense. And you get halacha lema'aseh. So who did that? The Rashash. If we learn Nahar Shalom, if we get to learn it inside, whenever he quotes Sha'ar Kavanot, or any of the Sfarim, or Lot Tamid, Mevor Sharim of the Ari, whenever he says V'ayin Sham, he says it in a way that it's not written. 99.9%, those who've been in the shir know from before. 99.9%, if he quotes something from a sefer, it's not as you read it there, you won't see what he's talking about. because he's being mefarish it, the halacha l'maaseh, what it really means. So he never stung wrote anything that was already written. He only came to take what was written and to mevar it. Yeah. So therefore, we hold it in Etz Chaim, and the Etz Chaim that we use. At the end of Etz Chaim, you've got Chelek Aleph, Chelek Bet, there's 25, 50 Sharim, and then you've got Nahar Shalom. That's called Chelek Gimel of Etz Chaim. But without that, you don't know what to do with Etz Chaim. So prior to the Rashash, there were other Sfarim like the Yefei Sha'ah, which got very close to what the Rashash did. But and he held, and then he writes. He said, after I read the Rashash, I'm mabatel everything I wrote to his dad in the middle of the Sefer. He said, now that's been printed. He's the last word. There was no one that even today, all the Ashkenazim, but even when they got the Chasam Sofer and Pressburg got a Siddur Rashash, and he started praying for the Siddur Rashash. The Klosenberger Rebbe, the Chaim, what's his name, Sanza, got a copy of it. He used to do the bracha of the Omer later on at night. When he got the Siddur Rashash, he says, he started making the bracha earlier in the night. He said, now that we have the Siddur Rashash, so like it's the last word and everything. It's important to understand that. So anybody comes along like now, I got somebody sent me 30 different opinions about whether you can do Kavanot on the Omer or not. Yeah? And each one saying, but maybe it's only Kavanot, but it's not Yichudim. Right? So I'm going to just start by explaining that in Nahar Shalom, in the last part, so you've got basically Rechvot Nahar, which is the Hakadama, just about the creation, about the Briat Olam. And then you've got the Kavanot, Shah Kavanot, Nahar Shalom. And then there's this She'elot, which came from the Chachmei Ma'arav. And most of them were answered by the Rashash. Some were left open. And the later generations, a bit in the Chacham also, and Rabbi Harun Ferreira was one of the Chachmei Betel, he wrote a sefer to answer all the ones that are not answered. One of the questions is, can we do Kavanot during the Omer? And the Rashash says, Chas v'shalom, you can't do them, it's very dangerous to do it. So we're going to try to explain today why it's dangerous and why we don't do it as well. So now they came along, we said, you have to know what it's talking about. Yeah, if you know what it's talking about in a certain way, you can do Kavanot. Yeah, and then all these people, Pulim, Yichudim, yes, Kavanot, no, everyone with it. If you just read the question, in the answer it doesn't mention Yichudim clearly, it only talks about Kavanot. Yeah? Some say Yichudim, when you do Yichudim, there was no Shvirat HaKelim where the Yichudim are. It's in a place where you only bring Shefa down, you don't have to fix anything. It's already fixed. There was no shvirah of the kelim over there. Some want to say that, right? So therefore, it comes out, you wouldn't have a pachad of doing yichudim now, right? The only problem is, if you read the question, it says, can we do kavanot and yichudim? And he answered, no. So he's obviously saying no to the yichudim as well. He didn't say kavanot yes and yichudim no. So they've written me 20 pages about all this chilukim, but they didn't read the question. They quoted the Rashash without understanding what the question was, right? Doesn't make sense. So, anyway, that's another story. So to answer some of these, we explained that there's at least two parts of fin that we work on from creation. One's called the Partzuf HaZmani, one's called the Partzuf HaYomi. The Partzuf HaZmanim, right, which is the Chagim, it depends on human beings, right, because we have to Mekadesh the Luach, and the Luach is therefore the Chagim go by the Bnei Adam. So Adam HaRishon had to come in the world, and that's when the Pegam took place, meaning when creation on the sixth day began, when man was created. However, the sun and the moon and the days, the first day of the year, the first day of creation, I should say, the first Vayi Boker, even though we know the first day of creation before there was even a sun and the moon created, is also talks about a 24-hour period. The Ramban talks about it, right? So it's one of those anomalies we can't. There's many dachim to explain it. The Ben Torah Kilashon Ben Adam, Bnei Adam. But it's not pashut what it means, right? But we know for sure when you get to the day when the Or, and the sun and the moon was created, obviously there was light before the sun was created, so it must be talking about another light, some kind of electromagnetic light which exists. Even electromagnetic comes from the sun, but it could be some other meteoritic light or something, wherever the scientists try to explain what it means in creation. It's not a new question, it's an old question, right? But when you talk about the day when the sun and the moon was created, you've got the first day ever in creation where there's a day and there's a night, because now there's a sun and a moon, yeah? So then you're talking about a new system which involves weeks and months and days, and that's what so basically that's the Partzuf HaYomi. So really the Partzuf HaYomi was created before the Partzuf HaZmani, okay? So now when the Chagim come along, which depend on the Partzuf HaZmanim, we said it's like Toshar Galim over here, it's a much higher tikkun. And the pagam over there is much higher. Everything about it is much greater. So, coming back to this, so that's what the Chagim are. So when we get to Pesach, right, and you have to build up the tikkun of this Partzuf, which we're in now, it takes 7 weeks. So what we would normally do in one tefillah of Shemona Esrei for that day, it takes 7 weeks to do the same thing. But you're working in a much higher place. You understand? You could be talking about working in one street in the whole of London, right? Or you could be talking about doing the same exact system, but for whole of Europe. You understand? And then you go, oh, Eretz Yisrael, which is the greatest, right? So the tikkun is in a much higher place. Yeah? That's the Chagim. So now, once that takes over and hijacks the tikkun of the olamot, and that's what we're involved in, that's where we're nigral, all our avodah becomes over there. It's not a question of, now some would say, okay, so if I'm a chaven, concurrently or parallel to that, there's also the tikkun hayomi, which we'll be doing when it wouldn't be during the Omer, every day. It's still happening. But we don't, our avodah is not there. When we come to do a tefillah or a kavanah, it automatically goes to the place where the avodah hayom is. So the question is, can we separate ourselves from that and say, no, I'm going to mechaven only in the other place? And that seems to be the crux of the issue here. So, for example, Rabbi Morgenstern and Rabbi Shimon Ehrenfeld, who followed the Torah Chacham, see, it's complicated because I'm telling you what we do lemaaseh. But there were other mekubalim, great mekubalim. The Emet LeYaakov, Rabbi Yaakov Nino. There was Rabbi Avigdor Azriel. There was the time of the Rashash, right? They wrote Sfarim to try and prove that you can do Kavanot. Now, Torah Chacham said he didn't do it in public. And most like the Benish, like the Ramani and all the Chachmei Chalab and all that, they do basically say we mustn't do it, it's asur to do it. And what the Torah Chacham wrote, which he said he heard from the Rashash, or the Rashash was somech on him, or he told him after he died, in the Derech Nes, he lived with him every night, even though after he left this world. At the end of the day, some say it's only with Derech Limud. The Chacham means it's only academic, you mustn't actually do it. It's dangerous to do it. What do we learn from this Lemaaseh? That now we're in a period where we can't do Kavanot, because even if we think we want to understand it the way it would apply, you can't, because the world, as soon as you come to pray, your prayers go according to that system where it's like that. It's not something you can choose to do. It's automatic. And if you do it, and it's a state which is, if you do Kavanot now, because it's a pachad of the chitzonim, so the koch of the kavanah means you bring down these orot, and since it's still in what's called katnut, because in a stage of katnut, it's not complete. And when it's not complete, we don't have the koach to protect the chitzonim from coming and taking the shefa. Okay? And that's why the Rashash is so particular that you have to do it as soon as you can from Shkia. Literally. Not obviously we pass after Shkia, you shouldn't make a bracha until you get to Laila Badai, but you can start saying leshem yichud in Israel, it's only a few minutes. Yeah? So the Mekubalim try and do it as the earliest point of Nacht as they can, not to wait. And you see, if you leave it for later, it gets harder and harder, you get more tired, and it's true. All the Yetzirah comes along, it's like a kavanah. Did I say, what day is it? All this yellow come up. Yeah? So there's such a thing. There is such a thing. Some say if you're so connected to Hashem, and if one day you want to do kavanah of the tefillah, as Rav Ehrenfeld writes, right? Then Hashem will understand. It's okay. You don't have to worry. You're protected. He said, because Al Yeshal Milismach, all the ones that said that, it's Ramchal seemed to say it's okay, right? So Tzvi Midzidichov used to do kavanah in the mikvah. The Rav Avram, what's his name? Baal Hanes, what's his name? The son of the Talmid of the Baal Shem Tov. Apparently says you could do Kavanot as well. So there's all these shmor that have come, but we know lots and lots of Mekubalim from all the Chachmei Bet El. Basically, don't do it, it's dangerous, keep away from it, right? So why is that? Because when we're in a state of Katnut, we haven't got the protection of the higher mochin that come down, which comes from Abba. You got from Ima, we mentioned last time, there's Yisrael Saba Utvula, which is called Ima, and there's Abba V'Ima Ila'a, which is called Abba. Abba's Chokhmah, Ima's Bina. You probably didn't follow exactly what I said. You've got in the Partzufim, Partzuf, let's write it down, because it's going to become very, very, what we're going to talk about. We have to fix, we said, the Partsufim of Za and Nuk. Try and find out where we wrote it. I'll do it again. Whenever we do any tikkun in this world, right? So somebody who doesn't come to the shiurim but listens to them said, please can you explain about the Shviat HaKelim? I said, slowly we'll have to fill it in. Because it's obviously part of what we're going to talk about. We know that in the Olamot of Atzilut, we said that the Kelim fell down, right? They fell down into these three Olamot, and there's three lots of Kelim. Pnimim, Emtzaim, and Chitzonim. Yeah? That's clear to us. When they fell down, there was like 10 Sfirot, Bechad Samcha. It says in Zohar Kadosh, Bechad Samcha. They always sing that. It's a linear like that. Yeah? And then there was a tikkun in the top three. There's something called the Kavanot. You don't just for information. When the Shira took place and HaKadosh Baruch Hu fixed it, he fixed it not anymore as Sfirot, but rather as Partsufim. That looks like that. And the Partsufim generally have three kavim: Yemin, small, ve'emtza. And you've got the high ones, which are called Chagat, and then you've got Chabad, Chagat, and Nai. But in all of them, there's like three Partsufim, and sometimes the middle one split into four, so you get four. Okay? So the whole, what happened was, it used to be that the Sfirot were like, let's say, if you got 10 Sfirot like this, so the Keter of this one, and the Keter of the next one, there was 10 Sfirot going across with 10 in each one, all the Ketarim became, it's like you turn it 90 degrees. All the Ketarim of each one of the Sfirot became together a new Partsuf called Keter, which we call Atik. There was a rearrangement. All the Chokhmah became Partsuf Chokhmah. All the Binot, each one became a new. Why did this happen? So that everything should be in everything else. There's a concept, El Adam Posel, El Abimamot Posel. Everything is made up of everything. So that's why now we're not just. If it had not been like that, so you would have been a Nefesh, you would have been a Ruach, you would have been a Shema, you would have been a Chaya, you would have been a Yechidah, and you'll be stuck like that. By making it Kalalut, everybody has everything in them, so you can reach the highest levels. It's about everything and everything. Everything is made up of everything else. It's called the Hit Kalalut. So when the Hit Kalalut took place, right, so now we end up having the Partsufim forming. So there was Atik, then there was Nuk de Atik. Sometimes they're together, sometimes they're separate. Then there was Arich, right? And then there was Nuk de Arich, 12 of them. Then there was Abba. Then there was this Abba. Let's call this one Abba, right? And then there was another one around it called Ima, right? And then there was this. I'll explain to you in a second what this Abba and Ima is, because these are the ones we want to concentrate on. These two, right? Then there was Za, and then there was Nuk. Okay. Now, the names sometimes will confuse us on purposely. It was done so that people will not know and they'll give up and they won't know what we're talking about. So that's why the names sometimes are confusing. But this Abba really is Chokhmah. Everything above that is part of Keter. This Ima is Bina. Then you've got Za, which is Vak. Vak means Shisha Ketzavot. What's Shisha Ketzavot? Like it says in Otzor Chaim, Chesed Gvura Tiferet Netzach Hod Yesod. Yeah? And this is the Malchut, is called Nuk. Right? That's the Malchut. So really you've got 10 Sfirot now, because Keter is 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 6, and that's 1. You get 10. Yeah? So originally, when the Partsufim were created like that, what happened was that the Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, these ones over here, they were shalem with 10 complete Sfirot in each one has got 10 of its own. Doesn't matter how it looks inside, but it means they're mushlam. And this is called Bechad Matkela. In the Zohar Kadosh, Matkela means like a balance. Like Rosh Hashanah, you've got Moznaim, and you've got, like the Moznaim is like this and like this, right? You got, I can't remember how you do scales, but imagine scales, right? So that's the Keter, that's the Chokhmah and the Bina, and they're in equilibrium, meaning they all balance each other out. There's a Tzad Yemin, small, Ve'emtza. That's called Chad Matkela. That was the top three, called the Gad, the Gimel Rishonim. Everything below that, the other seven, are called the Sheva Melachim, Shemalchu Be'edom. They fell down. Why they fell down? Baruch Hu created it. The leshem was quite open by saying Baruch Hu intended that way. It was the Ratzon Hashem that they should break, and meaning the orot were too high for the kelim. They went out, they came in, they couldn't take it, it smashed. When they smashed, the kelim fell into the klipot, and now we have to bring what's called the shivirei kelim, the fragments of the kelim. Is the nitzot, is the rafah that we spoke about. Our job is to bring that back up and fix it each time. So now before the shvirah took place, there was a zivug of keter that gave koch to Abba ve'ima. Now this chokhmah over here, just try and pay attention to this, okay? This chokhmah here, this Abba, is also called Abba ve'ima in Na'im. Okay, so Abba HaKolel is Abba ve'ima Elaim. It's just names, okay? This Ima, which is Bina, she's called Yisrael Saba Udvuna. Yisrael Saba Udvuna. Okay? So when you see it says Abba ve'ima and Yisrael Saba Udvuna, it really means Abba and Ima. This is Abba, this is Ima. But Abba himself is called Abba ve'ima. But when you talk about Sfirot, that's Chokhmah, that's Bina, and this never changes. This is always the case. Okay? So now Zah was not fixed. Zah only came out as 6 out of 10 parts. Remember, these have got 10, 10, and 10. This came out only with 6 parts, and this came out with 1/10. So if you read, for example, El Mistater, right? It says Keter Malchut. So the Keter means the Keter of the Malchut. That's all that came out. Right? The other 9 Sfirot of the Keter, of the Malchut and of Nuk, never ever came out. And also in creation, when the world, so in other words, the Sheva Melachim, can you see where they are? This is 6, and there's one more. Those are the Sheva Melachim that fell down. They're the Sheva Melachim that came out, and only the Nefesh of them came out. So now what we have to do is fix these. How do we fix them? Whatever was there fell into the klipot. So this 6 and this 1. So there's so many numbers. You have to learn the story. It's not, honestly, it seems so complicated. If you understand this happens every day, all the time, every bracha, eventually you say, you know what, this is what Baruch Hu wants me to know, you'll know it. If you can do a tax return, if you can work out why, I won't say this now, it's not for now, but why women do certain things if you don't understand, it makes no sense. You go to a wedding and they all go to be excused exactly at the same time, makes no sense. Men would never do that. You know, this is a joke. I'm saying there's certain things in the world that don't make sense. Why do people do that, right? So Baruch Hu created an order. There's a Ratzon Hashem that the world works and that men do it their way, women do it their way. Each one's got their own way Baruch Hu created it, regardless of what they're going to say, right? That's the fact. Men are men and women are women. There's a Gemara in Nida that explains the differences between why men this and why the Isha Kol Arif. A man can't become a woman's voice. He can pretend, he can impersonate it, but he hasn't got a Kol Arif. He's not a woman because he comes from the ground and she comes from the bone. Gemara says so. Yeah. So these 7 fell down because that was the Ratzon Hashem that it had to be that way, and we have to fix it. So every time we have to first bring them back up to here, right? And then we've returned it to the state before the Shvat HaKilim. Now, before this question, Shvat HaKilim happened twice. This will always have to happen twice. The first time it happened was before the world was created. That means before the week of Rosh Hashanah. When did the world begin? On Kafei Elul, right? And then on Rosh Hashanah it was 6 days later, Yom Shishi, when Adam was created. There's a week before that where the Zah and this Nuk were created, the Ma and the Ben. We're going to is a very elaborate, very, very complicated sugya, right? But there was a week before the week of Kaf Hei Elul. And that's where the Melachim fell down. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it says, Kad Salig Ru'ute Lemivre Alma. It says in the Zohar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Idra, his Ratzon, he chose to fix the world. So he was Ma'aleh Man, he brought them back himself. Normally we have to do it, right? But there was no one, there was no one they couldn't pray for the rain. Says Rashi says that's why the rain didn't come till Adam was created. Okay, so the first time Hashem fixed it, it was his Ratzon that he was Ma'aleh Man and he fixed it. And he left a little bit left at the end. The whole world had been fixed. He said, Adam HaRishon, just finish off the process. What did Adam HaRishon do? He put everything back down into, that was the second round. So now we're fixing both rounds. We have to fix the round that Adam HaRishon originally fixed and then corrupted it again, and plus the bit that he was left over for him to do. That's our avodah. So we explained that not people know this, but the Sadeh says that's the difference between the achor and the panim that we have to fix every day. There's an achor and there's a panim. Okay? Question?
Just one quick question. So there's 7 fell and they created the Rafah.
Yeah.
So
So as we go through the tefillot, we're fixing this up. Okay? So that's basically what we have to. So just in terms of labels and names, we have to remember there's atik ve'nuk, which maybe next time we'll talk about it a bit more. There's atik, and then there's nuk de atik, and then there's arich and pin, and there's nuk de arich. Right? If you count all of these, there'll be 12 parts of him because in Zah Nuk you also have to open up. Zah is Zachav and Kavanot, Nuk is Yaakov Rachel. That's how you get your parts of him. Okay? So that's terminology. We've got to get used to these terms. Now, to focus on what we're doing, every time we have to bring up the mitzvot to Zun. Some go to Zah and some go to Nuk. Our avodah, except for Yom Kippur, is always in Zah. And the women, when they do the mitzvot, they fix Nuk. Except on Yom Kippur, well, our avodah is in Nuk as well. It's one time in the year where it's different. Okay? So, when we fix Zah and Nuk, the shefa has to come from what's above them. So it has to come, be'ikar, from 4 different parts of him. Yashas, Tvuna, Abba, and Ima. So let's, for argument's sake, call this Panim, and this Achor. And this Panim, and this is called Achor. Should actually be the other way around, but it doesn't matter. In other words, Tvuna is called Achor de Achor. Yashas is called Panim de Achor. Together, this is called Achor Klapei, which is called, this is called the Panim HaKlali, and this is called the Achor HaKlali. That's what we'll find in the Siddur when we have to do Shmona Esrei. These are the terminology that will be used. That Abba, this is Abba, will be called Panim de Panim. Ima Ila'a will be called Achor de Panim, because collectively they're both Panim. Right? And what doesn't matter the terms as much today. What you have to realize is that there's 4 slamim. There's 4 different sets that have to come down into Zah and Nuk for us to finish the tikkun. 4 different bechinot. And each one of those have 10 sfirot. So in other words, to be mashlim Zah, we have to bring 40 lots of sfirot from all from what's from above. Now, when we say it's Abba is only a conduit to pass it on. Right? Abba passes his selim. So in order to build it up, first we have to put the ones of Tvuna, which is done in the first part of Shachrit till we get to Milah Be'ahava. Yeah? And then, and if you split up even more, between Echad V'Shma, and then after Echad V'Shma, we bring the Panim down. So eventually we get to Be'ahava, then we bring Abba V'Ima. Why have we said all of this? First of all, we have to get used to this, we have to go over it again and again and again. But the klal is like this: until you bring something from Abba, this Pachad HaChitzoni. So in other words, this bechinot which come from here are like Katnut, and this is like Gadlut. But within them there's also Katnut and Gadlut. But there's an idea, there's a Katnut and there's a Gadlut. Okay? When is Katnut HaMochin? So you open any Hasidic Sefer, it talks about the Omer, it's a time of Katnut HaMochin, Katnut HaMochin is dangerous, you can't go swimming, and this and that, and the other, it's like HaMochin, it's a time of Yerida, no time of Aliyah. And they take Chassidut, takes Kabbalistic ideas and makes it into everyday ideas, how we can apply them in our life. That's what Chassidut is. It's not learning Kabbalah, it's learning the Musar of the Kabbalah and applying it in our lives. And the Baal Shem Tov held that if you do that, then people will live their lives in a more accurate and to bring more Kedusha into their lives. In the same way, if you take any Sephardi book on the Chumash, any Sefer written on the Chumash from over 100 years ago and before that, it will always be B'derech Pardes. There'll always be some Kabbalistic idea for the everyday man. Where is the Rachaim HaKadosh, or it's the Yaakov Abu Hatzera. Doesn't matter who it is, Ben Ishchai. They all do it in Tunis, Akashor of Shema Kohen, and everyone the same thing. They never just learn Pshat. They always brought the Kabbalistic ideas into the everyday person's life, so they can have some connection to it. They don't have any connection to it. It's part of the Torah. Yeah, but in the raw base concept, in the Makor Hadvarim, yeah, we have to understand that there's a Zman that's called Katnut and a Zman that's called Gadlut. Okay? This is what we wanted to get to. All of that was to get to this point, yeah? Now, if we go even a bit further than that, Rabotai, we've got another level in between that that's called Yenika. So in order to build the Partsufim of Zanuk, we have to go through an Ibur, a Yenika, and a Gadlut. Yeah? Beikar, wherever it applies, is the 10 Sfirot. 3, 3, and 3. Chabad, Chagat, 9. Chabad is the Gar, is the Gadlut. Yenika is the Hagat, Chesed Tiferet. And the 9 is the Katlut. So when we start, whether it's Kaddish, we start with the 9, and it's like a child that has to grow up, and then all the years come into play. So from the time of the Ibur, there's a certain time of the gestation, which is like a 9-month period, depending which olam it is. Sometimes it's a 12-month period. There's 7, 9, and 12, depending which olam it is, which patzuf it is. Not olam, which patzuf. Then there's the holadah. At the time of the holadah, Gemara says Ratzag, how many years? It's 300 and whatever years. Shin Tzadik Gimel, I think days it is, right, when the baby's born. Right? The Gemara talks about the first 3 months, second 3 months. Okay. At the time of the holadah, then there's the 2 years where a woman is a menikah. She's a misakelet kedamim, if you learn hilchot nida, because she's a mayaneket. That's called the yenikah until the age of 2. From the years of 2 until 9 and 1 day, right? The yenikah carries on until 2 years it stops, and then the katnut begins. And the katnut goes on right until 9 and 1 day. That's one bechina of the katnut, and then the gadlut begins and it finishes 13 and 1 day. So in the olamot, every time we do Shmoneh Esrei, the first part we're in the first 2 years, then we go to the 9th year, we get to in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei already, and until we get to Be'ava, then the Galut can be 13 in 1 day, and we're building up Zanuk, and it happens in the female as well. There's a similar idea. So now, is that clear? That's easy. Yeah, that's the story. I don't want to talk only, huh?
Very easy.
No, the last bit, because these 3 stages, right? Okay. Yeah, okay. So let's stop for a second. What do we take from everything we said today? The Master. I'm saying when I start talking, then everything means everything, and I don't want to leave out anything. Okay, but we have to also be focused. The gadlut of learning is to take something and learn that well. That's the way we learn. One thing well. Huh?
We're stuck in Katnut at the moment.
Exactly. We're stuck in the Omer for 7 weeks in Kavanot, right? Although the last week of the Omer has significance because you've already gone into the Abba, and also the last day of every week also has a special significance because in that week you've already reached Abba, which is the highest level, the Gadlut of Abba. In fact, if you take all the weeks, the days of the week in the Omer, according to the way we understand the Rashash, it breaks down exactly into these 2 parts of field that we have to fix, this one and this one. So if we, I'm not going to complicate it, keep it simple. Basically, this one and this one, okay? So the first 3 days are this, the second 4 days of the Omer of each week are these. That's exactly how it divides up. Pesach night, the same thing exactly. Everything, you have to build up Bina and Chokhmah.
I think I just cut something before I never cut it before that. When you say Panim and Achor, those are the 2 different things that before Adam Rishon and after Adam Rishon that we're fixing each time. With each one, that's what you mean when you say the 2 parts.
No, it's more complicated than that. It means that's in time. In time, there are 2 stages in time.
Right, but that's what those are the shemot that we're fixing. That's referring to each different thing that we're fixing. The 2 different.
You're making a really good point, and I don't want to go into it. It's a really good point. I put myself in a hole that I have to climb out of to explain it. It will take too much time.
Right.
But yes, it's true. There's truth in that. We have to explain it though. It has to be explained what it means. Okay, it's true. You're right.
Is that what it means when you say Abba and Ima? Abba is one Shpirat HaKalim and Ima is the other Shpirat.
It's more complicated because they also receive from when we bring up the Birurim, we have to bring the Birurim to this level, and it takes the Meitav, and then the rest goes to the higher level, and to the higher level, and to the higher level, and the higher level. And there's an order how you fix it. It always gets fixed to the one above it, and then it gives to the one below it.
Right, I understand. I just mean that they're two simultaneous.
Yeah. If you like, hold on to it. You don't need the answer to that right now, okay? What we need to understand now, Jeremy, what we're carrying on now is that whenever we do a tikkun, there's actually three parts of things we said we have to fix, right? There's the chokhmah, bina, and the keter. Now, just one more thing I'm going to mention before we look inside, right? Is if you take Zah, right? Zah himself, or Nuk, has all these parts of thing in Zah as well. Actually, the more accurate way to do it is to do it, in the way parts of thing, each one around the other, right? So you've got all of them around Zah. But if we take it as a cross section, just so we can understand it better. So you've got the first parts of, which is the Nuk within Zah. I'm only talking about this Zah now, right? In that Zah itself, you've got 5 parts of thing. Let's do it like that. Okay? These two, which is called Nuk and the Vak of Zah, who himself is called Vak. Yeah, this is Zah, which is Vak. Everything else was background. This is now is Lemase. Okay, so this is the bit that we need to concentrate on. This Vak here is fixed from the time of Sheshet Me Bereshit. We don't have to fix it. We only have to fix these parts of him, 1, 2, and 3. That's what we have to fix. So this first part of here is called Yasut of Zah. This part of gets fixed by this. It comes from the Yasut itself to the Yasut of Zah. From the Yasut of Zah, of the Yasut, which is the actual Yasut, meaning it's Yisod Savot Tvuna, in the Olamot, the Vatzilut, it goes to the Yasut of Zah. Yeah, Adam? And the one, this part of over here, of Chokhmah, which is called Abba V'Meila'ah, fixes the Abba and Ima of Zah. And then the high ones, which are called Keter, will fix this third part of here. So for example, during the week we do the Nai of this one. On Kabbalat Shabbat we do another part, and then Shabbat morning we do the rest. And then the whole of Shachrit is this, and then you get to Mincha, you do some of this. And then that's as far as we can go. Understand? So now, the same exact story is going on in the Omer. For the 7 weeks, we're building up every day in how you do it exactly. You have to explain. It's very complicated. I can show you there. I'll show you so you get an idea what we're talking about. How complicated it gets. That's the Omer that we're doing now. Okay. So each night we do 7. There's 50 of these. This is the third part of Kol Ima. This is the fourth one called Abba. And the Keter we do in Shavuot. We don't do it during the Omer. We're only working in these 2. Usually we're only working in these 2. Even Lachash of Chazara, one is here and one is there. You understand, there's a whole, if you don't like maths, you don't like equations, right, it could be this is not for you. My friend, Rav Asher Wade, right, he was in Germany and he suffered anti-Semitism, became Jewish. Well, he was a pastor and he became Jewish. He was a Christian pastor, he became Jewish. He works for Yad Vashem now, yeah. So one day I saw him walking off. He used to live in Malot Daphne, and I saw him walking down, and he was going to see Rav Yaakov Hiller. He's a Gera Chassid. He likes to dance at the end of Shachrit and do his feels Hashem, right? Very intellectual person. He went to Rav Yaakov smiling. I said, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to see Rav Yaakov. I'm going to talk about all about Kabbalah, what Kabbalah is." I'm so excited, right? So I went and had my night seder, and I came out to have a break, and I saw him walking home. I said, "Where are you going? What's going on?" And he was dejected like this. He said to me, "Mordechai, the last thing in the whole world I want to do is learn Kabbalah." He said, "It's like doing algebra while I'm davening. How can I feel connected to the Shekhinah if I have to do algebra?" It's not for me. It's not for me. So at least he understood. So anybody who feels that, I can't tell you to carry on. But the emphasis is we can do it. We have to put our heads to it. So it's working out which part we're fixing. Like Jeremy says, like playing bingo, you have to do the numbers, right? This one and this one, you have to close the ball until you get to the whole thing, right? But that is exactly what we have to do. But when we do it, and we're part of the process of bringing the orot down, it's a zikui for our neshama. It's an incredible aliyah we get. It's called that we caused it to happen. Understand? And it's getting our heads to fit and understand the story in each stage of it. The more accurately we can mechaven to what's going on in that particular part of the avodah, that's what we're doing. That's what Chachamim told us we're supposed to do. Because they understood what was given on Har Sinai in this chelik of Torah.
Why do we need to know what we're fixing to fix?
Because I'll just tell you, because the Chachamim have told us, the whole Zohar was written, the whole Arizah was written, everything that we do, all at the end of the day, whatever avodah you do, right? is going to come back to the real ma'arechet of the structure of how it works. And it's going to make sense when you understand why the olamot are that way.
Okay.
If you go, you learn Rav Dessler, you'll end up being there. You learn, I don't know, Chesed Levenstein, Salamta, it's all based on Etz Chaim, right? Rav Chaim Friedlander, Sefer on Ramchai, it's all based on, this is the avodah of how the world was created. This is how it happened. So it's not just an interesting thing to find out as part of my journey, right? It's a chiyuv to learn it. There's a ta'ana on us if we don't learn it. Why have you got time to go and learn how a car works and not understand how Kabbalah wants you to understand the world works? Yeah? So that's the answer. So what we've understood over here is that in the Omer, we're only dealing with these ones over here. So coming back to the beginning again. So we understand that there's three parts to every tikkun: the katnut, the yirika, and the gadlut. From 0 to 2 years, 2 years to 9 in 1 day, 9 in 1 day to 13 in one day, right? That's basically how it works. And then after the gadlut, there's also higher things to come to the age of 20. Okay. So whenever we do this avodah, we have to do all these three parts. So now let's just now try and do something in the mass there, right? So now you can wake up off it. Okay? Let's take what we've just learned, the theory, and now the Shem Hashem try and put into practice. So we have over here the Kavanot of Shema. So if you look on the top of Shema, we see over here, look at the yellow boxes. You've got 3, 4, 1, and 2. Yeah, 3, 4, 1, and 2. If you've got a Siddur, even better, compare it to what's in the Siddur and see how complicated it is in the Siddur and how we've tried to break it down to understand what's going on. So if you look at the top line, it says Zivug Shefa Chitzon. See how it says? Zivug Shefa Chitzon, the Achor, the Abba Ve'ima. That means it's coming from the, these are my titles by the way, so it's not that you won't see in the Siddur. But when you then read what's in the Siddur, it says Zivug Chitzon. So what is Zivug Chitzon? So, Rabbatai, whenever we use the word Zivug Chitzon, it means Yanika. This is something that comes with it, with learning further. Yeah? So we've written in brackets, the gufa, don't worry about that, because Nechad will be Rucha, the two different stages. Shefa Chitzon de Yanika. That's why I put it in brackets. Yanika is Chitzon. Meaning before you can get to the Gadlut, you have to have gone through Katnut and then Yanika. So there's a rule. When you do the Kavanot of Shema, every day, when you leave behind what you did yesterday, the Katnut always remains. You don't have to bring it again. You only have to then start from the Chitzon, Shefa Chitzon, which is called Yanika. So now, this is what we have to know. The word Shema Yisrael, Hashem, Elokeinu Hashem, is all Yanika. There's all rules about how the Yanika works. Yanika works because after the Churban Habayit, we have to do a tikkun every day to get to this stage. But when the Beit HaMikdash was standing, we were always in the state of Yanika. It never went. Now we've only got Katnut all the time. We don't have Yanika all the time. So we have to divide the Shema into two parts to finish the Yanika. And the purpose of the Yanika is to be able to get these mochin and send them up to bring down the Gadlut, which is an Echad. So the whole purpose of the Yanika, of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem, is called Shefa Chitzon. Shefa Chitzon, any questions? Just take that in for a second. What we learned today, that there's Katnut, Yanika, and Gadlut. When you get to Shema, Katnut's done. We have to now work on the Yanika. Yeah, and why do we need the Yanika? In order to get to the Gadlut, which is the Ikar, which is Milat Echad, right? Now all this Ma'arechet to get to Echad, remember, all this is the first stage, which is called the Achor. So all this is only in Tivul now. The 4, we're only dealing with the Tivul now. That's why we have to do it again in Be'ava. Again, we're going to have to do it. Same thing. So the Kavanot has twice. Then that would be for the highest step too. Okay? So now, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem is all Yanika. Right? Baruch Atah Hashem. Before you say Elokeinu, Shefa Chitzon. Look in the Siddur and the Kavanot, it'll all be Shefa Chitzon. First bracha of Shema, which is really where we're up to as well. We did it very quickly. We didn't do the Matbea bracha, but every Matbea bracha, Berkat Hamazon, the bracha of Yotzer Or, bracha of Tefillin, Talit, any bracha that we say, the first words Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu is all Shefa Chitzon. Okay? Melech HaOlam is the Gadlut. So we have to have the shefa chitzon to send it up, either in Melech HaOlam, or in Echad, or Be'ava. Yeah? That's what we have to do. We have to have that shefa chitzon. So that's what we're dealing with over here. It's called shefa chitzon, or the Abba Ve'ima. Shah Kavanot tells you where it is. Okay? Now, the next line is telling you that you don't have to do anything with Rafach. You don't have to send any Rafach up to bring down the shefa chitzon. Whenever we bring something new into the world that isn't yet come into the world, in our world, coming from outside our where our region is, it's called HaMechadesh B'Tuvo B'Chol Yom Tamid. There's a koch chadash that comes in when we take up the Rafach and we send them up to Rum HaMa'alot. Then there's a new zivuk that takes place in the high. The Rum HaMa'alot means the Ab, and Ab, the Sag. The highest part. Forget this is all Atzilut. Then you've got Olam Ak, and above Ak you've got the highest part of Ak, which is the Ak, the Searot, and the Metzach is, and now there's a Zivug that takes place, and then there's new Shefa that comes in the world. Then they didn't come in even from the time of Maaseh Bereshit. What came in Maaseh Bereshit was only the Malchut, the 10th Sphira of Ben. But there's another 9 Sphira, and another 10 of the Ma. 19 Sphira have to come in when you go to Rum HaMa'alot. It's called Mechadesh B'Tuvo. And that happens in Melech HaOlam to bring the Gadlut. Understand? But when you have to get Shefa for Shefa Chitzon, it's from the Shefa which is already created from yesterday. It's already in the world. The Shefa Kayam. That's called Shefa Chitzon. Yeah? Make sense? Yeah. So the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, the principle is that we're talking over here about Shefa Chitzon. So that's why, right, when we see this Rafach over here, number 1, that's not the Rafach of the Shefa Chitzon. There is an opinion that it is, right? There's an opinion that it is, don't get me wrong, right? But it might be, no, this Rafach is for Echad V'Gadlut. You have to do it in 2 stages. You have to do Birur here and you have to do Aliyah there. This is a Machloket. So maybe this Rafach is Chitzon, maybe it's Gadlut for later on. But what you don't see is Abba Mitzot Beidin. So that's how we know this is not the Gadlut, for sure. Either it's a conveyor belt that's coming, the shefa's coming down by itself because it was already there, right? Or it's Bechla just a biru. We'll talk about another time what the difference. But the point is, even if we call it Shefa Chitzon, as I put in the title, there's no Abba Mitzot Beidin. It's not we're bringing up Rafach for something that is going to go to the Ma'alot. It's just something that we need for a koach to stand up, to bring down the real birurim, which is going to be in Echad of Shema. Yeah? That's all I wanted to say for today. This Shefa Chitzon, to understand what this is going on, it's really unbelievable to understand it. If you look now, in these, you've got one these, we've got from last time, I've got spare ones over here. So if you don't take them home, then please give them back for next time, because we've still got things here we need to do. Anybody need?
Yeah.
Yes. Come on. I don't want to go on, I maybe spend a bit more time I wanted to in the first part, but it's really important to get this. If you look, we're going to be doing 2 things. Page 3. Yeah, sure. Page 3. Okay. And before that, if you quickly just look on page 5. Page 5, number 5. We have over here a copy of the Sidur HaShash on the mitzvah of Irusin, Kiddushin. Yeah? We're going to the mitzvah of Kiddushin. Now, it says here, קודם ברכת אירוסין יכוון שהוא מוכן לקיים מצוות עשה לקדש את האישה בכסף שנאמר כי ייקח איש אישה. So you have to know which mitzvah we're doing. We're doing the mitzvah of כי ייקח איש אישה. Is there a mitzvah to get married from the Torah? Do you have to get married? Is there a mitzvah say? No. There's no mitzvah say to get married. Peruvu, right? So what's כי ייקח אישה? If you get married, you have to do it for Kiddushin, right? If you're doing it, you must do it the right way. Okay, but that's a hachana to do peruvu. Right, but it's not one of the Targum mitzvah.
Next time.
Huh? Hechsher mitzvah. That's what we're learning now. We're learning, understand, leshem yichud is hechsher mitzvah equals shefa chitzon. That's what we're going to get for today. Whenever we talk about the hachanot of the mitzvah, we're going to learn something now which is unbelievable. But if you know what hechsher mitzvah is in the Hasidus, right? They say that the hachanos is more important than the mitzvah itself, right? Now you understand why. Right? So he says over here, "Ve'al yedei hachanat kavana zu," through the hachana of saying Hareini Muchanu Mezuman. Now, whether you say the words leshem yichud or you just do like Le'itayim and you say Hareini Muchanu Mezuman, right? Hareini Muchanu Mezuman, the kind. It's also, huh? So the fact is, you're doing the same thing. You're just not doing it with the pratir of the leshem yichud, of the yichud itself, right? So what does it do? It says Al yidei hachana Kavanot zu yesh lo koach lechavem beberkat bemilat melech haolam. In other words, the hachana is the shefa chitzon, is the yenikah. When you say, I'm about, in your mind, about to do this mitzvah, and if you verbalize it, Arei Muchanu Mezuman, you took all the birurim of the shefa chitzon up to the Roma Ma'alot. What's in this kavanah over here? You did all of that.
So you don't need to say Baruch Atah Hashem anymore?
It depends if there is one or there isn't one. Some mitzvah, you're in the middle of a street and you see an old lady, this classic case, you see her in yeshiva, help her across the road, right? Did you get that told that? That's a classic mitzvah, right? An old lady across the road, right? And then he comes up to you, Matok Tipacha Yadcha, right?
We got told to go to the other side of the road.
So if you're now the shochet, right? Or you're doing minicha and you can make a bracha, then you don't need to do this, right? But if it's a mitzvah but it has no bracha, so this is what you have to. That's how you get the shefa chitzon, right? And when you recount the mitzvah, then you get the gadlut, right? So it says, anyway, the point was just those words, right? This is language, yellow koach. If we go into the sugyot, we'll see that's exactly the same language. Over here, the Rashash in this mitzvah was megaleh that it's shefa chitzon, and that's what it does. Now, if we go back to Shamar and Rashbi, we learned this for today. There's another, look, is it okay if I'm going to ask you permission? What's the time? Yeah, it's not your half past. Give me like another 5 or 10 minutes, okay? Okay, it's not Arbit today anyway. Number 3 at the bottom, Sod leshem yichud Shari Mari Rashbi. Shari Mari Rashbi is the Shah. Rafaim Vital had a son called Shmuel Vital, and he wrote the Shemona She'arim. He took all the writings of the Arizal, which his father wrote, and he put them into Shemona She'arim. He decided what the order should be. In Etz Chaim, it's a different order. But Shari Mari Rashbi is all the writings of the Arizal as you comment them on the Zohar. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote the Zohar. So every sugya in the Zohar, it goes to the Zohar Keseder, and over there it gives you explanations of what the Zohar is talking about. And that's Chaim, it goes according to the order of the creation of the world. Yeah? It goes through all the Parsufim that were created. Yeah? Sharuch HaKodesh, it goes according to the Tikkunim a person needs to do for his nefesh. If it's Shara Gilgulim, it goes into the Gilgulim of the people, different idea how it's set up in the Akdama over there. But it's the same teachings, but in each place, when he goes to that subject matter, you get a different insight according to how it's being taught in that system. And this system is a Zohar system. There's a Ma'amar in the Zohar, and it's a pasuk from the Torah, and now we understand what the Torah is talking about according to the Kabbalah. So Shari Mari Rashbi over here, it says Sham Beraya Mehemna, right? Bedaf v'chulei v'zeh leshono. Yud Yirah. The Yud of Yud Kevav K is Yirah. Yirah means fear. Can I ask you, any of you learn Mesilat Yesharim well? Do you know between Yirah Ahava and Yirah Taromamut? Do you know Yirah Taromamut? Have you ever learned that in Yeshiva? Yirah means the lower fear of things, right? Ahava means it's Hashem al-Khatira. There's a mitzvah Rambam says that's for Nashim Ktanim and people, right? That's all we know, and all of us think about to get to the real mitzvah of Ahava. That's and then Kol Echad Zocheba, Kol Chacham Zocheba. It's a pure love. Ki acholat ahavat ani. A person all day long is thinking of Hashem. Yeah, that's what the Rambam says. That's what Sefer Shir Hashem was written for. It says in Chachot Tshuva. Then there's another level. It's called Yirat HaRomamot. That means to understand the reality of standing in front of the Creator, and He knows everything. What's the point of me saying anything He knows better than me? The reality of how every moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a super computer can't even reach what he can every moment understand what's going on in the world, right? Then the Ramamut of that is to understand that it creates an awesomeness of a recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's greatness. It's not fear, it's an awesomeness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's, the reality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the highest level we can reach. So Mesilat Yesharim explains that. Where does it come from? This piece that we're going to learn now. So every yeshiva bachur that learns Musar well will be very familiar with the concept of Yirat HaRomamot, but he might not be familiar with what it says over here. So it's saying the Yud of Hashem's name is Yir'ah. V'da ihu al rishei devar nash, and this is above a man's head. Hey, ahava. Now, it's very strange because normally we would have thought ahava is the kav yamin, is chesed. And Yir'ah is din, so it should be the left. So we know in Hashem's name, the kotza yud is the keter, the yud is always chokhmah, and the hey illah, the first day is always bina. So what do you mean ahava is Abba's Yir'ah and Ima's ahava? So that's the wrong way around. It should be the other way around. Something wrong, not right here, you understand? What, the right side is the ahava and the left side is Yir'ah? What's going on? Yeah? Ahava Rashay, Devar Nash. You have to be above your head. That's what it says in the Zohar. Now he's going to explain to you what the Zohar is talking about. Inyan zu cholek al hamuskam lanu bekol sifrei hazohar. It's contradiction to everything we know. V'gam atikunim ki ahava hi bechokhma v'yirah hi bebina. So it's the wrong way around. The yud should be ahava and the hey should be yirah. Okay? אבל העניין הוא במה שנודע כי שתי מיני יראות הן, החיצונה והפנימית. The leshem of the Arizal is what we call chitzon and pnimi. In the Litvish world, in the Muslim world, we call it avas aromus, yiras aromus, and yirat tata. In Nefesh HaChaim, it explains one is the malchut, one is the bina. Now he's going to explain to you. Hi achitzona, hi yirat b'chmat ha'onesh. A person's got a fear of punishment. Which the Rambam says, "Antichos yoson leolam yavadam al Hashem lo lekabel pras." Right, lo lekabel pras. Shouldn't do it for that. Right, but if you're doing it because you're worried of being punished, the person can go crazy because he's fearful all the time. It's going to happen to me. Going to put ayin around me. Going to get this. It's not good. It's a childish way to serve Hashem. והפנימית היא מה שכתוב החזק כי כל צדיק ירא לעלות אל מקום חופת חברו פן ישרף. I have an awareness of something above me. You understand? It's a different type of yirah. I'm not scared I'm going to get punished. I'm scared of what's above me because it's so awesome. We had time to explain that there's another way of looking at this. The Ashlag explains a certain way. I know you quote him, but he's very good when we're talking about the Avodah. That there's fear of being punished. And then there's a realization of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that knows everything that I need to know better than me, so it's kedai to listen to him. And I'm scared that I'm going to be, by not keeping a mitzvah, or not keeping a chumrah, or going down a madriga, my closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be compromised. That's what we're talking about over here. It's an awareness of what's above. That's called the yirah pnimit. K'mo shekatuv b'pasuk, ki al kol kavod chuppah. Every tzadik's got a chuppah. And we're saying, if you don't do all the avodah in this world, you'll come to the next world, and you'll be embarrassed when you look in the other side of his chuppah, and you go, I should have been greater, right? Such a chaval. Chen העניין הזה, הוא בספירות העליונות עצמם, כי כל אתה אחת יריעה לעלות למעלה ממקומו פן תשרף באש חברתה שלמעלה ממנו. If you realize what's above and the awesomeness of the diagram above me, I can get burnt and scorched from it because it's so powerful, so great. וכמש בפרשת בפשלה, כשלא משה אמרום, שאומר לו כמוקל המלאך, שלא היה יכול להיכנס בתחום הדרליקל. Each malach couldn't go into the one above it because they'd get burnt alive. They had to understand what's above them and they're not shrunk to that level. פן ישרף זה באישו שחבר גדול ממנו. Right? והנה ספירת הכתר. Now you have to understand the answer to the question. Why is it that Yud is called Yirah? Why is Chokhmah called Yirah? Right? I'm telling you this piece will change your avodah. If it doesn't, there's something wrong with you. Unless you learned it before. Okay? So, I'm going to say it carefully. The Keter is called En Ba Yirah Zud. Keter is so high, you can't even fathom it. Ki En Sirah Eliona Haimena Vehi Eliona Shebekulan. So the Chokhmah looks above and thinks, I have to have Yirah from Keter because there's something above me. Keter's got nothing above it. But the Chokhmah says the Keter is above me. So I have to have Yirah. That's why Chokhmah is called Ket. It's called Yirah. Yirah Pnimit. ואומנם הספירה הראשונה מכל 10 ספירות שיש בה זאת היראה היא ספירת החוכמה. לפי שיראה לעלות מן מקום ככתר הגבוה ממנו פן תשרף באש שלה. ולכן היא נקרא יראה פנימית. That's the Chokhmah. It's called Yirah Pnimit. Yud is Yirah. That's the answer. Now what's the problem? Why should the bina kol ahava? What's that all about? אבל הבינה, אף על פי שהיא תחת החוכמה, אין לה יראה זו. You know why your wife doesn't fear you? Right? לפי שהבינה והחוכמה זיווגה חדנו, they're together, they're the same level. They know their secrets, they're husband and wife. What's it to fear of you, right? Right? Unless you're an Arab and he hits you, it's not the way of the Jews, right? וכחד הנפקין וחד השריין, אבא ואמא are always absolutely united at all times. ואדרבה, יש בה בחינה אהבה, she loves her husband, כי היא אוהבת את החוכמה ומתקרבת אצלה, she's besotted to be with him. באופן כי, right? ואישה תשוקתה, right? כי החוכמה נקרא יראה, כן, יש לה יראה למעלה אל הקצר, so he's got to worry about another level, קצר בכלל, not שייך to the קצר. והבינה נקרא אהבה, על שאוהבת את החוכמה אהבה גמורה. ואמר כאן, כי צריך שאדם יקנה בו שתי מידות האלה. We need both. בדחילו ורחימו ודחילו. Right? He's telling you now what's going to be in leshem yichud. Right? מידת האהבה את השם יתברך, הנרמזת בבינה ואוהבת את החוכמה. מידת היראה, הנרמזת בחוכמה, היראה מן הכתר. So this is all easy. Now we have to really apply it to our lives, right? והואיל ועתה לידו לבר עניין היראה החיצונה הפנימית, ועתה עניין תועלת האדם בהיותו ירא יראת הפנימית. I'm going to tell you what you achieve when a person is זוכה to have the חוכמה level called יראה פנימית, יראה סלום, Romimus, right? What's the nafkamina that you have what you don't have it, right? So look what it says over here. כי גורם שגם הקליפות יתייראו מלעלות אל הקודש פנימה. If a person walks around understanding that there's a yirat aromament of the keter above the chokhmah, there's something above me, there's a greater rabbi than me, there's a greater person that's better midot than me. Who am I? I get angry all the time, I'm rubbish, I'm nonsense, I'm zero, afar, tolea, afar ve'efer, right? Bachol mitolah. If a person understands tolah velo ish, he has that midah, then the klippot will be scared of you and they want to leave you alone. Because you have that midah of being fear of something greater than you. They will be fearful from you. Pen Yisarfon, why did something greater than me? So I have to be Kona Yirat Romimut. וכאשר אדם איננו ירא אז כאן בפני אלוהים, גורם על הקליפות שיתבטל מהם היראה הזאת, ועלו למעלה ירקק שפע מן הקדושה. He's causing, by him being hefker with everything, say, Rabbi always talking about Kishem, he's got on shop, right? So who is better than you? You think you're the greatest? Yeah, you go, so then the Klippah says, okay, I'm not scared of this man as well. And what happens by him doing that? He's opening the tap and giving them the shefa. Because he's not going to this midah. וזהו סוד פסוק, וטוב לא יהיה רשע בצל אשר איננו ירא לפני האלוהים. There's a corruption in the way it's written, so we put the right way. כי רז"ל דרשו על התלמיד שאינו ירא מלפני הרבו, תלמיד doesn't have the awesomeness above a rebbe, ואין בו מידת היראה, ואמר כי הוא רשע העושה כן, ולכן לא יהיה לו טוב. Don't think he got away with not respecting his rebbe, right? He's causing himself to have a lot of problems because now he's megared the klipot. They're going to come and start on him. They don't care. You don't care about your rebbe. We don't care about you. We look at you. We don't see anything to fear for. We're going to take your shefa, right? כיוון שנדמל אל הצל אשר איננו ירא לפני האלוהים, והצל הזה הם בחינת הקליפות, אשר נגזו בכך צירופי אלוהים לקדושה. We know that it says if you take a house with 5 batim, that means it's got 5 letters in the word. So if you learn maths, it's 5 factorial divided by 2. That's the formula to know how many combinations there are. So 5 letters has 120 combinations. It's 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 divided by 2. That will come to 120. So there's 120 tzirufim of Aleph, Lamed, Yud, Hey, Yud, Vav, Mem, Elokim. And that's where all day yonek from. Yeah, this is a famous yichud of 120 tzirufim of Elokim. Shem Kiminyan Tzel, והוא סוד צל מוות, אשר נהנו מלפני האלוהים, ועולה להציל בכך צירופי אלוהים, הנזכר שהם בקדושה וכבר ביאנו. Okay, so basically what did we learn today? That when we talking about the leshem yichud, right, right, we have to understand that we're just not talking about saying some words and some formula that makes it a bit more holy. We have to understand, I didn't bring the whole thing over here, but then it goes on to explain that the chilu l'chimu is also the wrong way around. It should be the other way around first. It's chilu l'chimu. So the chilu is the yirah, and the chimu is the love, right? The chilu means is to be scared. So he's talking about this. After you do this, then there's another level where it's the other way around. Rechimu is talking about the man with his wife. Then he goes and explains that connection, which we didn't do today, right? Just to finish off, over here at Bishaul, this is the introduction before you start the first chapter of Otzrot Chaim. And over there, he's got all the Kavanot you're supposed to say before you start learning Kabbalah. There's a special Ribon Olamim, and there's a special Kavanah, yichud of Limud Torah, it's called Torah Lishma. And then you say leshem yichud before you learn. So he's got a little asterisk and a crescent here, just these lines in the middle over here. And he explains, look what he says. Leshem yichud kucha b'rechu zun. So why do we do a havaya adanut first? Because that's talking about fixing zun. B'dchilu chimu, and here you've got, you see the combination of these words, is yud ke vav ke aleph ke yud ke. So the yud is first. Why is the yud first? Because it's the chokhmah and the bina, and we're making a shiluf of chokhmah first and bina second. So it's yud of chokhmah aleph, first it's of bina, second it's of chokhmah, second of bina. And that's how it works. It's shiluf of chokhmah and bina. It's abba and ima. But here the dechilu you see is the chokhmah. It's first. The dechilu chimu means is the yud ke vav ke of that kavanah. And the rechimu is eke, right? Or rechimu, now it's the other way around. Now the rechimu is ima who loves the husband. Or the chilu is the chokhmah who's scared of the keter. Right? Zun. He says in the brackets here, al yedei shefa. This is the formula. Now, go to the last paragraph. Od nevae pirush al leshem yichud. כי אמרו בתיקונים תיקון ו' דבזמנה דישראל משתדלים באורייתא שבכתב בדורייתא דבעל פה ברחימו דחילו we learn Torah with fear and with love and faith the other way around אתמר בהון לא תיקח אדם על הבנים והוא כי תחילה צריך לכוון לאחד זיווג חיצון. First you have to do שפך חיצון, that's the יניקה, right? שהוא דחילו. That's why the ima is called the dechilu here in this case. Shehu yirah, shehu. So the other way is the abba. Im rechimu shohava ima kazeh. La'achach zivuk primi rechimu. In other words, there's an order to how you do the shefa chitzon and then the shefa primi. So I'm saying to you in Shema, this is Baruch Shema Yisrael Hashem Lakem and Echad. He's showing you that even in the leshem yichud is broken down into those parts, but the order always is first the yenikah, the chitzon. And then the primi, which is the gadlut. Im techila kazaya, kashem mevuah b'shar ma'arbe Rashbi. What we just learned is what the Rabbi Shaul understood is what you're doing when you say l'shem yichud. It's what you just learned in Shar Rashbi, right? Yeon sham ba'orech. והשם יזכנו תמיד ליחדה ולעסוק בתורתו לעבוד בעבודתו. In other words, you understand what he just did? He don't appreciate. He just took that whole sugya, which was a nice drasha about Yirat HaRomavot. And he said, this isn't just a sugya generally. You have to do this every time you say l'shem yichud. You're saying, b'dchin urchim, but the chokhmah is scared of the keter, and that's why there's something above that might be visoref. And when you do that, you're bringing down shefa chitzon. Unless, of course, there's a Baruch Atah Hashem involved in the mitzvah. Because then you don't need to, because you're going to do it anyway. But it will carry on from there. But the hachana of the mitzvah. If you put all the things together, we learn three things. Shai Ma'am and Rashbi, right? And then the Rashash who said in the mitzvah of Kiddushin that the hachana gives you the koch to be ma'aleh the shefa chitzon, right? And this Rabbi Shaul, I can't show you more of the connections to say that you understand what he's talking about. This is what he's referring to, exactly what he's referring to. We have Shurim on this, right? So therefore, it comes out every time we say Leshem Yichud, we're doing an incredible avodah. We're bringing down. It's actually what we're doing, and I'll end with this. Is we're taking up all the shefa in order to do this first stage called shefa chitzon, which is yenikah. Just like we knew in Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem, in those words, or Baruch Atah Hashem, or the bracha, when you just say Leshem Yichud, you can achieve the same thing through the hachana of the mitzvah. To take up all of the shefa chitzon, so that when you get to Melech HaOlam of a bracha, or you do a mitzvah, if there's no bracha involved, you've got the shefa chitzon to send up to bring down the shefa of the gadlut, which is called shefa primi.
So if you don't say Leshem Yichud, you missed it.
You can argue that, yes. You can also argue that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could be mashlim for you because you're a tzaddik. He did it.
When do we say
If you
Leshem
want to do it
Yichud
with
without bracha?
Huh?
When do we say Leshem Yichud?
Every mitzvah, there's a sefer written by Yosef Jakatilia, it's called Shah Mitzvot, and it's got a Leshem Yichud for every one of the Targum mitzvot b'zman hazeh.
Kavanot has also for Purim, for Matlev
Huh?
Yonim, for Matlev Yonim,
Who
he has
does?
a Shimchot Torah, Kavanot
Did you get from that sefer?
Yes, he has.
He published this book with one of the first one he ever published. It's called Shar Mitzvot, Rabbi Yosef Jakitilia, and he's got a short yichud for everything in mitzvah.
Chaim also brings from Master Shekel,
Anyway, we pass in Chafetz Chaim and Mishnah Berurah pass the sefer mitzvah katzar. You also have sefer mitzvah katzar because mitzvah is kavanah. Every mitzvah you do, you have to have kavanah for the mitzvah. So that's why in the pshat you have to have zuma, right? So when you say in the leshem yichud, you're also then homing on the shefa chitzon. Yeah, and the way the koch you get it is how we said by having the yirah of the yirah shalom. Baruch Adonai L'olam, amen v'amen.